Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, every once in a while in this job, you get to stumble across something kind of fun. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with, once more, as always. My name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more. And if you like how we do things in the light and conversational fashion that we do, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the podcast. Basically, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts: Amazon, Google, Spotify, Apple. It's all good, and also we archive every single one of our episodes over at our YouTube channel. Also, we'd really love it if you'd follow us on social media. You can do that at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One. And finally, and most importantly, would you do us the kindness of visiting us over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest movie news, reviews, some television too, but basically anything about the moving image we love to talk about, and we love sharing it with you. So come pay us a visit and pick up some recommendations, because that's kind of our lifeblood. It's how it keeps us going. But on today's episode, we got a fun one, because it's one of those ones where sometimes you're just flicking along and you're just going to put something random on and you discover it, and it ends up being a lot more pleasant and enjoyable than you kind of really expected it to be in the first place. And that would be Tenney Fairchild's Vikes, which is available on a variety of different platforms now, like Prime and Tubi. And you can also find it for rent on iTunes and Google Play and YouTube, that kind of thing. But it's a fun little coming-age story set in the Midwest, where with our hero Thorvald, trying to get the attention of a girl that he likes, and he's taking a cue from Ida's campaign to ban a competing school's football team's mascot, the Redskins, which is an offensive term, obviously. Thorvald initiates an effort to change his own school's mascot, the Viking, which ends up with some pretty sort of fun and hilarious results. And it's a cute film. It's got a lot of Juno in it. It's got some election in it. It's hitting a lot of those familiar sort of high school coming of age beats, but it's got some real sort of subtle and really deft satirical moments in it as well. And we got the unique pleasure of sitting down with writer-director Tenney Fairchild to talk about the film and just how it got started and his origins and just sort of the inspiration for the film. And it's a fun talk and it's a fun movie, so we certainly hope you enjoy it, because I know I did. Well, I mean, obviously, first off, thank you so much for the time today. I appreciate this.
Thank you right back.
Well, I mean, first off, I love the film. Like, I was struck by just not only how sweet it was, but just how borderline satirical it was, as it was dealing with the whole sort of not only just young love, but sort of kids wanting to be politically correct and trying to find their place in the world, and all that stuff rolled into one. Like, can you walk me through sort of the origin of the story?
Well, the origin of the story started with the two of them and her kind of plight or quest, perhaps on the back on with the hopes of appeasing her own boyfriend with the opposing team's mascot, the Redskin. And then I thought, well, that should probably be the backdrop of the story. So I started filling in the basic kind of, food groups or whatever along the way, right? And so I had a little bit of that, but I didn't have an ending. And so it took a little bit to come up with an ending before I got sort of serious, because I just like to write junk from time to time. And when I sort of came up with the ending, which would be, they just kind of move on after this. They're the only character that probably stays where they were at would be Manifestus, because his job is that. But these kids come up with other stuff to kind of concern themselves with, because I've grown up around causes since forever, and everyone goes to the next cause or the next thing or the next hobby or the next pal or whatever. So once it seemed like they should just be pals at the end, then I could fill in the blanks from the beginning.
I love that. Just like as much as it borrows some familiar beats from the genres, it doesn't have a straight line. Like for you, sort of putting this all together, was that sort of the drive to sort of give us this kind of story, but with a bit of an angle to it, like you just said, about sort of having it just sort of play out like it would in life, like kids will move on, these things will keep happening.
Yeah, that was pretty much exactly it. And you said earlier, you mentioned, sort of satirical. Well, yeah, because it's easily satirized when stuff is overreacted to, because it's kind of ripe for that. And as they sort of realize it along the way, then we're all in on it.
Yeah. No, because I mean,
it all started out with the right intent. Everyone's trying to,
of course,
they're all trying to make things cooler for someone else, but then it sort of does its own thing and, circles back.
But I think it's those little beats that I appreciated the most, like, him calling, the white kid cracker, the police officer going, okay, young man, give me the N-word's gun, please. Like, it was all very sort of, nothing was wound up. It all hit you very suddenly. And if you weren't kind of paying attention, you would have missed it. And that's kind of why I really sort of connected, not just with the movie, but with the characters, because it felt like a very smart universe that you were building.
Well, it seemed like, sometimes when you're a kid and you go visit your cousins and they're in another town and you pick up sort of their way of being stuff, but they're just naturally doing it.
Right.
Anyways. Like you'll pick up new lingo, but that's what they speak for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was kind of wanting to be that with everybody here. So we show up in their neighborhood and this is just how they are. Like the maybe things that would feel somewhat absurd is not that to them. It's just part of their stuff.
No, absolutely right. And I mean, a lot of that I would imagine goes to casting as well. Can you speak a little bit about that, just to find sort of the right ensemble who would understand the material in the right way?
Well, a lot of that was just meeting with people and them sort of bringing that understanding and just in conversation like we're having. And then with Sid and Aiden, that was all chemistry. They sort of seemed like pals from the get-go. And so, which is really all they were meant to be until the end of the story. Because, he goes to her for help. And when someone comes to you for help, there's automatically a little bit of a bind there. It's like, oh, cool. Let me see if I can lend a hand. And then as we go forward, it evolves into what it evolves into.
How much sort of room to breathe or wiggle do you give sort of actors on set, especially in the moment? Or are you sort of the type of writer or director who's very sort of specific to the words on the page?
I like getting to the words on the page, but I sometimes don't like them when realized. And also, it's anyone can do anything as long as no one gets hurt, as far as coming up with stuff when we're going. As a matter of fact, I don't think she got hurt, but I'm not giving anything too much away. But, when when Thorvald gives Ida a little bite on the shoulder, that wasn't in the script, but it was part of the cool thing is like, they were just kind of jamming and having fun. And when you catch that, it becomes more natural because by definition, it literally is natural.
Yeah.
It's candid.
No, and I think that's part of the magic of the film. And I'm just curious, like for you, what got you into this business? What made you want to tell stories in this way?
I started out making commercials, and then I would write just for the fun of it in the mornings and the afternoons, whenever stuff would dawn on me. And it sort of evolved into this next thing. I'd done a commercial, a Nike commercial, and an agent at UTA called up and said, hey, would you want to make movies? It's like, yeah, sure. Okay. Of course, it'd be a fun thing to try and do. And then over time, they would send me some stuff. Great guys, by the way. But I was busy with my day job. And so I didn't do some of them. And I got to thinking, they must be thinking, what's with commercial knucklehead not wanting to work on such and such project. So I said, hey, I wrote something. And they said, well, send it over. And there was this little script called The Good Humor Man. And they got that option the next day at Showtime. So I thought, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake, but it ended up, we were able to, bring that to fruition. And my agent said, hey, guys, the movies you're turning down, guys make movies like this one so they can do. He never would push me into, crazy things, but he just said, you know what, you're kind of doing this the other direction, but they got it done and it was great. And it was a fun project. And then sort of, I started doing some of my own stuff, and that's kind of cliff notes of the evolution of it.
I've got to imagine that sort of coming up through commercials is a good sort of proving ground in terms of efficiency on an independent film shoot, and just in terms of getting stuff done in a quick manner.
Yeah, although having said that, a day shoot on a commercial, just the production alone, you can make a little indie flick. So it works both ways, and you use different players too, because in the little indies you can't use certain unions.
Yeah, is like thinking back in your life, is there a movie in your life that sort of you saw at a young age that sort of flicked the switch for you to make you want to sort of do this job?
I kind of evolved into doing this. I
Okay.
wasn't the kid who said, gee, I want to be a filmmaker. It was more like, I want to keep the fridge full. And I started writing the ads and sort of evolved from one thing to another. But the stuff that sits with me the most, probably Holy Grail,
Nah.
you
Yeah, for sure.
Magnolia.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw Magnolia, my butt fell asleep. I'm thinking, I got to get out of here. And it's subsequently become, one of my favorite movies, but all different stuff, things, Caddyshack, you get just junk from everywhere that you sort of enjoy.
Well, and I mean, I think it's sort of an important way to be too, because I mean, you can have 190-minute opuses that make your butt numb, but you don't want to move, or you can have, 95 minutes of a talking groundhog, popping up on the ground a dancing groundhog popping up on the golf course, and it's all equally as valid. And I mean, I think that's an important thing to remember, especially sort of when you're trying to come up and sort of be not just be influenced, but sort of be pragmatic about it all as well, because it all works and it all has value. And I just want to say again, like, I really love Vix, and I mean, I think it's definitely hits sort of the sweet spot of the genre, and also tries to do some different stuff as well. And I just want to say thank you again for the time, and congratulations on the film.
Thank you much appreciated. And thank you for taking time to watch it,
My pleasure.
to
Thanks,
have a
guys.
gander, to take a test drive.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.